Hi everybody, it's Christina from Pretty Distressed. In today's video, I'm going to be taking one of my old pieces, stripping all the paint off and giving it a beautiful driftwood look. I'm also going to be updating the hardware to be a little bit more rustic just to fit with the piece. So if you want to see how I got this look today, just keep watching. I'm going to be using their No Pain Gel Stain and some of their patina paints to give this piece a makeover. This dresser was actually my first Dixie Belle Paint piece ever, and I still really like it. We just built bunk beds for my son and completely changed the color scheme of his room, so this needs a little updating. When I started off, I wasn't really sure what direction I was going to go, whether I was going to paint or stain it, so I just decided to see if I could scuff up the paint and how hard it was going to be to get it off. So I grabbed my orbital sander, a 60 grit sandpaper, and just went to work.
Don't you know that I would, 'cause I'm just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever?
I got bored with sanding pretty quickly and realized this was not going to be the best way to remove this paint with all this detailing. I wish I had a better sander, but I don't. Maybe one day I'll invest in one. But before I switched over to stripper, I decided to remove some of the stuff that was making this look really girly and decorative. So these pieces were pretty easy to rip off, so I ripped them off on both sides and tried to sand a little bit more because I just really don't like working with chemical stripper, but I finally gave up and busted out my citrus strip. Some of you might have seen me work with this stuff before. I used it to strip down my really dark bedroom furniture and create this beautiful restoration hardware dupe look. I'll link that video up above so you guys can check it out if you haven't seen it. But this stuff is really easy to use. It's not as caustic as some other strippers, but they have reformulated it here recently in the past couple of years, and it just doesn't work as well as it used to. But it still works. So the process is you want to pour it in a metal container, apply it with a chip brush, make sure that you have protective gear, gloves, goggles, a respirator if you have one, or just a bandana or something. I know respirators are really hard to find right now. So you just paint this on super, super thick, like as thick as you possibly can without it dripping off. And then you're gonna let it set for about 30 minutes. You can also wrap it in cellophane, which I'll show you later. Once this reacts, you can come in with a plastic putty knife and it starts removing the paint and varnish. It makes a super big mess, you guys, and I am not the best at this, so I'm gonna link some other videos that I've watched before to help get all this stuff off.
Do you know how much I love you? You put my favorite song on, I put my feet up, and we just sing along, and I can't help but feeling just like...
When you get to a place where you've scraped off a lot with that putty knife, you can grab some really coarse steel wool, get some citrus strip on there, and that will help you get some little bits off and get in the nooks and crannies because it is a lot more flexible than that putty knife. Can you see why I only do this about once a year? I get amnesia about how hard it is, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna strip all this paint off, and it's not easy, you guys. It can be done, but it is not easy.
Forever, forever, I watch you as you sleep. You don't know I'm looking. With you everything's complete. Do you know how...
I found that the stripper, the paint stripper, the varnish remover works better if you are laying it on a horizontal surface like this. So I kept flipping the dresser around to be able to do that. Just know that one coat of this remover is not going to get your stuff off. You're going to have to do multiple coats. I did try to wrap it in cellophane here because I heard that that helps. I didn't see a super big difference. I think this was coat number 3 or 4 on this side. This stuff gets really sticky and gooey, so once you get the varnish off to your liking, you want to take a mineral spirits or a paint remover after wash and use a final stripping Scotch pad, or you can use that steel wool too. Then that needs to completely dry down before you can sand it. So I'm talking maybe 24, 48 hours. So this is not a fast process. So I'm going back in here with my orbital sander once this has completely dried down, and I'm just trying to remove some of that orangey tone. I'm just trying to get this down to as bare wood as possible. Any areas that my sander couldn't get into, I'm just taking a sheet of sandpaper. This is 150 grit, and I'm getting into the details as best as I can. So after days of using a paint stripper and sanding, this is what I'm left with. And I do still have some dark shading, but I don't mind that. I like the way that looks in the end, which I'll show you later. The last thing I decided to do to prep this piece is I wanted to remove these decorative pieces on here just to make it look a little bit more masculine. And all I had was a saw on hand, but guess what, you guys? It worked. So I took these little decorated edges off and then just sanded it down a bit once I got them off. Okay, now finally the fun part. I'm gonna use my Dixie Belle No Pain Gel Stain in Pickling White. You guys have seen me use this before, and I'm gonna be trying to achieve a driftwood look today. This stuff is so easy to use, you guys. It's oil-based. I just use this really cheap foam brush to apply this in small sections, and then I'm gonna take my lint-free cloth, my Intex rags that I love, that I always talk about, and I'm gonna wipe this back. I'm just going back and forth over this, making sure that I am removing any excess stain, and it will be pretty white at first, but as you can see, as it dries, it really just tones down the wood beautifully. It kind of takes that orangey yellow look away and just gives this natural, beautiful driftwood look. And as you can see, the shading around the detailing, I actually love the way that that makes the details pop. So don't be afraid if you can't get all that residual stain and paint off your piece. Even the blue tones out the orange, so it actually was kind of the perfect combination for doing a stain like this. I really love working with gel stain because it is so pigmented. You really only have to do one coat and it's nice and smooth. It's not streaky. The one downside is that all the Dixie Belle top coats are water-based, so you have to wait 3 to 5 days before you can top coat this. So in the meantime, I decided to update my hardware because the gold color wasn't really going with the new look that I had. So I'm using patina paint. So I'm gonna just degrease these to make sure they're really clean. I'm gonna be using their patina paint to rust these up and make them look like they're really old. I'm starting with Prime Start and the Dixie Belle Premium Chip Brush to apply this. The reason I have to use the primer is because I'm going over metal. If you are going over wood, you don't have to do that with this paint, but you have to do 2 coats of the Prime Start if you are going on over metal. You just have to wait 1 to 2 hours in between the coats. I've worked with these paints before on my channel to do a little lamp makeover, and I'm excited to be using them again today because they are so much fun. They're like a science experiment. They have 3 different colors. The bronze and the copper ones really give like a green effect when you use the spray on top of them. So I'm going with the iron one because I like the rust, the orange rust looks that it gives. I found the best way to apply this to make it look like metal is to get a lot of paint and really stipple it on there. You're not using brush strokes. You're kind of just pushing the paint in to create that texture. These paints are so unique because they actually have metal flecks in them, and then they have 2 sprays that you can use to rust and corrode them instantly. It's super cool, you guys. So this is what it looks like after 1 coat. So I am adding a 2nd coat just the way I did my 1st coat with the stippling motion. And then while these are still wet is when you're gonna come in with the spray. There is a blue spray and a green spray. I really like this green one, so I just test it out on a paper towel before I take it to my actual piece, and you just spray it and then you set it aside and then you do it again. It's that easy. After 2 to 6 hours, this is what you're gonna see. You guys, you cannot control what happens with this stuff. You just kind of have to go with it. I added a little bit too much spray and mine were a little bit too orange for my liking. So I actually grabbed some of that iron paint and dry brushed a little bit of that on top of the ones that I thought were looking just a little bit too orange. So this is definitely not for control freaks, but it is so much fun. They do have a special sealer for this paint. It's called Patina Guard. I don't have any on hand, and I don't think that I'm gonna need it because of the way that these cut pulls are designed, but that is an option if you want to protect your patina piece. So here they are after the dry brushing, much better. After letting my piece dry for 4 days, I came in with the Dixie Belle Clear Coat in flat, and I'm going to be applying it with the Dixie Belle Synthetic Mini. And I like to stir this. I don't like to shake this because I don't want to get bubbles, like little air bubbles and stuff in it. So I just give it a really good stir because it can get really separated if you haven't used it in a while. This is my first time applying it with a synthetic brush. I've used a natural bristle brush before, and I think I've used one of those foam brushes, but I really enjoyed using the synthetic brush. This is a really great self-leveling top coat on its own, but the synthetic brush just kind of took it to the next level. When I'm working with this top coat, I go in the direction of the grain as much as I can and keep my brush strokes going in the same direction. I do go back and forth to smooth it out, but it dries really quickly. So you really want to just put it on and move to the next section. Don't go back and rework it. If you see a spot where you missed a little bit, you can always catch that on the second coat.
Don't wanna be shy. I will let my guard down. I wanna laugh out loud. Talk a little deeper, kiss a little harder.
You really want to watch out for globs like these. They kind of pull up in the corners a lot, or just in the detailing. You really want to make sure that you're smoothing those out as you go, because those will dry really big and chunky like that and yellow, and you don't want that. I did apply 2 coats of this top coat. You just let it dry for a couple of hours and then come back in and put your second coat on just the way you did the first coat. I really love this top coat because it gives a super matte finish and it is really durable. So just to remind you, this is what we started off with, a really beautiful piece, but now here it is completely made over. I love the natural driftwood look. I am dying for these handles, just the difference that the patina paint made. It was so much fun working with this again. I had no idea how this piece was going to turn out when I started, and that's what I love about YouTube, is that I get to bring you along on the journey and do things that seem a little crazy and take a really long time, but the result is definitely worth it. And I definitely want to tie these 2 pieces together better. I need a rug and some stuff for the walls, and now that I got this piece done, I feel like I can make that happen. Thanks for being here, you guys, and I will see you next time.